So welcome everyone to today's webinar, The Do's and Don'ts of Virtual Business Meetings, brought to you by the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in collaboration with AT&T. Please remember you have the chat available to share any comments throughout the webinar. So please start now letting us know what type of business do you have, where are you joining us from. Please feel free to add any comments on the chat. However, remember, you can start submitting any questions that you may have throughout the presentation using the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We have two excellent speakers with us today and a very interesting presentation. As you know, the topic today is so relevant for all of us, whether or not you have a business or not. And we wanted to start with a different dynamic. We wanted to show you a clear example of a virtual business meeting. And then we're going to ask you if you thought this was a good or a bad representation of what a virtual business meeting would look like. And in order to do that, we are having today two wonderful speakers. And one of them is Yvette Mouton, Senior Supplier Diversity Sourcing Manager at AT&T, and Mari Rábago, CEO of Mari Rábago Productions. So ladies, I'm going to leave the floor to you. I'm going to stop my video and mute myself, and we're going to start with our scene of the virtual business meeting.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you so much for taking time to meet with me today. So please tell me a little bit about your company.
Well, my company is an amazing company. I started about 10 years ago. We're doing great, and we're excited to be here with you today.
Well, can you please be more specific and tell me what your differentiators are and how you can help AT&T solve a problem?
Well, we have done business with you in the past, so you guys know us already. And well, it was very successful what we did. We're excited to be here with you again.
Well, who did you work with in the past?
You know what? I can't remember. But I know it was great. You guys liked it.
What work did you perform?
You know what? It's escaping my mind right now, but I know we did excellent work for you, and we're happy to be here with you again. It's nice to be here. Thank you for your time.
What was the term and value of the agreement? Are you there?
You know what? It wasn't that thousands of dollars, but it's getting hot in here. I don't know. How can I say?
Well, let me ask you this: what did the statement of work entail?
Well, we started with we fixed some things in your company. Sorry, this is a little bit uncomfortable today. We fixed some things in your company. That's what we did.
Well, do you have a capability statement?
I'm working on it. It's almost done. We're almost there. It's going to be done before you know it.
Well, where do you see your company fitting in with my business?
I'm sorry, it just went the wrong way. That happens a lot. Well, I know we definitely can help you, and I thought you can tell me a little bit of how I can help you.
Well, thank you so much for your time. However, at this juncture, I recommend that we conclude this meeting. However, please feel free to send me your capability.
But we're just starting. We're just starting.
We're going to have to reconvene. And in the interim, I need you to send me your capability statement upon completion. Would you please make sure that your contact information is on the first page, that you number all of the slides, and that you present a clear and concise summary of your company's capabilities. And please do not exceed 3 pages.
Can you repeat that part, please? I'm sorry. What did you say? The last part?
Okay, I want you to put your contact information on the first page, number the slides, present a clear and concise summary of your company's capabilities, and please do not exceed 3 pages. And I hope you have a pleasant day. Thank you for your time.
Well, are you there still? Hello?
I'm going to have to move on, but thank you again for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you. I don't think that went that well. Oh, well.
I don't think what do you think? Everybody joining us live on Zoom, what do you think? Was this a good or a not so good representation of what a virtual business meeting should look like? Don't be shy, please use the chat, but I'm pretty sure you can also use your reactions icon as well on Zoom. But first of all, let me tell you both that you did an excellent job. You could go to Univision and you know, work at some telenovelas. Yeah, so I hope you like this dynamic, because we wanted to start showing you exactly what we have experienced in the past. And it is very important for you to understand, maybe you didn't do all the wrong things that Maddie did, but maybe you did one without noticing it. Right? So it is important for us to bring this to light. And just to continue with this wonderful webinar today, I would love to introduce again Yvette Mouton. Yvette, she's the Senior Supplier Diversity Sourcing Manager at AT&T, and we truly appreciate you, Yvette, for taking the time to join us and share with us all your knowledge.
Thank you. At this time, I want to start by thanking everyone for participating, and I want to particularly thank the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and Lauda and Madi. We worked very hard to put this presentation together, and it was a pleasure. When I say a pleasure working with everyone. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my thoughts on virtual meetings, but I want to start by telling you a little bit about AT&T Supplier Diversity Program. At AT&T, supplier diversity representation really, really matters. I've been actually doing supplier diversity with AT&T for 23 years. I started as a senior sourcing manager, and I had many, many different jobs, but I always served as an ambassador in some type of volunteer capacity, because I am passionate about supplier diversity and helping businesses, certified diverse businesses. Next slide, please. And I want to very happily share with you that our program was born back in the 1960s, when our country faced systematic racial and economic challenges, which we all know still exist today. And we've maintained this program and grown it over the years. And in 2022, we actually commemorated our 54th anniversary as a supply diversity program. And since that time, we have expended over $214 billion, that's billion dollars with certified diverse businesses. And I'm so proud to be able to share that with everyone. Next slide, please. I also want to tell you about a new initiative, Buy Small, Local, and Diverse, that AT&T established, because I'm sure all of you and many of you on this call have experience working with larger companies, and perhaps your revenues weren't large enough. So we are targeting companies that have revenues between 1 million and 25 million to make sure that we give you access to AT&T's opportunities as well. And of course, participating on events like this today really help you to understand and learn what we're doing at AT&T. I'm not going to read the slide for you, because that's one of my tips about making presentations. So I'll let you take it in for a little bit. We're in over 65 cities generating these opportunities. I want to say as a whole that on average, sometimes it takes up to 7 years to get business with AT&T, but it does happen. And once it happens, it's worth happening. And you have to be patient and continue to show up to these types of events, because I can honestly tell you, I've been doing this for 23 years, and I remember who actually comes to these different programs when I see them all the time or hear them on the call. So don't think you're wasting your time participating. I really, truly hope that whatever you do today, you learn something new. I always have 3 goals. I like to serve God, learn something new, and have fun. And I pray that we have that opportunity here today. Next slide, please. I want to mention to you that sustainability is extremely important to AT&T. In fact, we have goals of being carbon neutral by 2035. And we also have a goal of 63% greenhouse gas reduction for Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions by 2030. And Scope 1 is like direct emissions, like if you're coming down the New Jersey Turnpike and you see gas coming out of a big tower, that's the direct emissions, and Scope 2 are indirect. So if you're working with another company and the electricity that comes through by driving the car, that's Scope 2. And then we also have a 50% target for suppliers to get set on their own science-based Scope 1 and 2 targets by 2024. You will hear throughout my presentation that we seek companies that have the same values that we seek. So And I'll talk to it more a little bit later. But what we want you to understand is that you really have to understand what's happening in the industry and understand what's happening with the company that you are presenting to so that you will be more successful. Next slide, please. So I will stop there with my slide presentation and then talk to you and speak to you about some general recommendations that I have with regard to virtual meetings. From now on, I want you to think of a virtual meeting as a video production. I want you to think of it as a movie, a production, and that you are the star of the show, okay? I recommend that in order for you to do this and to become more effective with it, that you take a sales class so that you learn how to pitch your product. I also recommend that you take a public speaking class so that you learn how to speak in a way that's palatable to people. I'm originally from New York. I'm the youngest of 6 children, so I have a habit of speaking very quickly. And I have a habit of perhaps not listening as much as I should. So we all have our weaknesses, but you really need to make sure that you take a class and get as much feedback as possible so that when you're on these video calls, you think of it as a production and that you are the star of the show, because you are the star of the show. It's not about me, it's about you when you're making the presentations. So with that being said, I want you to build a script. Just like we had a script, that was scripted what we just did. I want you to have a script. I want you to be totally prepared. I want you to have like a map so that you have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I want you to have a thought about what is the vision, what is the relevance, what questions will be asked. In other words, what I'm trying to tell you is that I really want you to be so prepared for every single meeting. I don't want you to think of another virtual meeting the same ever again the rest of your life. I want you to think of it as a production. I also want you to think about not only what you're trying to impart from yourself in terms of what your company can offer, but also what's going on in the industry. For example, in telecommunications, as you've seen, there's been a lot of consolidations and streamlining. There's been a lot of different trends for people coming in and out of certain spaces. And I want you to focus on what the company is doing that you're presenting to. So for example, AT&T, we just spun off Warner Media and DirecTV, and we're focusing on our fiber and rollout of fiber. We're changing and pivoting to deal with the economy and everything else that's going on. So you really need to know not only what's happening with the particular company that you're working with, but also what's happening in the industry, and perhaps giving some feedback to the company to say, this is where I think you should be going, and this is how I think you should get there. A lot of this is about problem solving and solutions. We're a great company, but we have certain challenges that we're all facing, and you should know what they are so that you can give us a solution so that you can have some type of value. So when somebody asks you what your value proposition is to solve a problem for AT&T. That's going to resonate with AT&T. Now, I want to get a little bit more specific about telling your story and preparing for the meeting. This is a trick that I've been using. Well, not a trick. It's a process that I have since I've started my venture in public speaking. I have to tell you, when I was a little girl and I was in kindergarten, my teacher asked me, what is your favorite hobby? And I said, talking. So you know I've been talking for a long time. One of the things that I always do is that I make sure I have a glass of water right next to me, just in case you start choking up or something happens with your allergies. And I also have a box of tissues standing by. I happen to have a lot of allergies, especially at this time of the year. So I want you to make sure that you have that so that if something happens where you need to take a quick sip, you can do that. Or if you need to, if you sneeze or something like that, it's a small thing, but it's really a very big thing. Be prepared for the little nuances that can make the difference. I'm a big sports buff, and I know that a lot of times it's the small things that make the difference, like the foul shots that people don't think all the time make the difference, but they do. So we don't want you to have any fouling problems, but at the end of the day, you want to be prepared with the big things and the small things. So I want you to be able to tell a story. I have a wonderful supervisor, and she's always telling me, tell the story, Yvette, tell the story. So when you think about your presentation, I want you to think about telling the story. I want you to have relevant data and make sure that you have viable data that can be proven, not just your opinion per se. You also want to make sure that you're addressing a problem, as I had mentioned. And you want to make sure that your slides are very organized. You don't want to have any assumptions on there, and you want to be prepared for perhaps controversial subjects for instance, sustainability. People have different views about that, but know that we have our priorities here at AT&T with sustainability, and make sure you have a position that you can assert during that time. Getting back again to the actual presentation of the slides, I want to make sure that you understand that you should make it easy for people. Please do not write in full sentences. Please use bullets. As I had mentioned before, it's imperative that you number the slides. I had everything that I'm telling you about is actually from experience. I'm giving you anecdotal stories, but it's true. In fact, the skit that we performed earlier today, I didn't make that up. That actually happened. And that was a combination of things that I have experienced on calls where people come totally unprepared to the call and tell me they've done business with AT&T and can't give me any facts about what they did. And that is a huge mistake, because what happens is once you get into AT&T, it makes it much easier for us to do business with you, because more than likely you have a master service agreement. And on a different note, if you have an advocate like me who's helping you to get business, when you get that business, you must call me and tell me that you got the business. I worked with somebody who I collaborated with for 6 years to get business, and there were 4 of us: senior sourcing managers, supply diversity manager, business unit. We got in business, and he never came back and told me. First of all, that was poor etiquette. And secondly, had he told me, again, it would have been easier for me to advocate, because then I can tell our primes and our business units that he's already doing business with us. And the importance of knowing who you work with becomes imperative, because my hope is that you're doing well with them so I can get a good recommendation and we continue growing your business. And again, this is from true stories that I have experienced. So make sure that you go back to everyone that you work with and give them a big thank you for any business that you garner with any company. But getting back to the slide presentation, don't put information on the slide that I don't need. So for example, I'm a supply diversity manager, and when you're talking to me, I'm going to be looking at your company at a very high level. Are you certified? If you're not certified, when do you plan on getting certified? What are your solutions for AT&T? But you're not going to get too deep in the weeds with me. And you also need to know that as a supply diversity manager, I am not interested in your NAICS codes, because I used to work in AT&T Government Solutions where we bid on government contracts, but those codes don't have any value to me, because I'm usually working with the business unit, or I'm usually working with the prime supplier. So don't clutter your slides with that. Use those slides to give me information about your sustainability, about your community outreach, about your demographics in your company, because we have a phenomenal Vice President, Rachel Coots, who took a look at our program 3 years ago, and she put us on a new direction with her phenomenal leadership. And she said, you know, it's great that we have all this spend with diverse suppliers, but we want to grow this and make sure our suppliers are doing things in the community. We want to make sure they have sustainable policies. We want to make sure that they're giving back. And we want to make sure that their values align with AT&T values. So target your slides to who you're talking to. It's like a resume. The presentation that you give me is not going to be the same presentation that you're going to give the sourcing manager or the business unit or the prime. Also, with regard to the fonts, make it colorful. I want to share with you that I actually have a new leader on our team. Her name is Alexis Denard, and she's our new AVP. And when she joined AT&T Supply Diversity, she put on this phenomenal slideshow with her background and told us a lot about herself. And she inspired me. So what I did was I went out and I actually paid somebody to help me develop a PowerPoint presentation about myself. And I had fireworks on it. I had music on it. And I did something very, very different that was catchy, because I wanted her to understand what the impact that she had on me with her slide presentation. So make sure that you have creativity and do something very memorable so that people will think, oh, I remember that slide presentation. Maybe you don't want the fireworks, but you want something to come across so that it will resonate with people and they will remember. Also, I want you to practice, practice, practice. I, again, have so much respect for Laura and Madi and my other colleague, Celeste Carrasco, who is not present today. But we worked so hard on this, and we practiced and we went over this. I was actually rehearsing this yesterday afternoon, and I've been rehearsing it since last week. I didn't get on this call just to talk. We rehearsed this and we practiced. So practice, practice, practice. Remember, again, it's like a production, okay? And then I want you to remember a couple of other things that I think are important. 3 things. One is make it easy for me. And I've said that 101 times, but make it easy for me. We're busy people at AT&T. I get hundreds of emails every day. Number two, don't make me think. That's why I said, give me the information on the first slide. People don't want to go looking for slides. Make it easy for me. Number the slides. We had a pitch presentation, this was about a year ago, and the gentleman had problems with connectivity. So he came on late, and then he had a 20-page presentation. It was too long, and people had questions, and they couldn't even revert to say, go back to slide number 3. They said, go back to the slide that had the truck on it. It made it very disorganized, and it was so sad. We tried to give him a second chance, but at the end of the day, you want to come with your A game and be prepared. I know also that with this virtual environment that we're in, we're doing a lot of matchmaking sessions. So I will tell you again, this 3 slides. I would recommend that you never have more than 3 slides. Anything over 3 slides is too much. When you have a matchmaking session, make sure you exchange information with the interviewee at the beginning, because you get cut off sometimes at 5 minutes and boom, you're gone. So what I do is I always introduce myself, give people my email information or where to register for AT&T, which in this instance is www.attsupplydiversity.com. You have to register. No ampersand, it's just www.attsupplydiversity.com. And so I will want to close by also saying, be likable. Please be likable and please be humble. People want to do business with people who they know can do the job, but also who are likable. I've actually had people get on a call with me and tell me they don't want to meet with people at my level. They only meet with the presidents. And I very respectfully tell them that we're the one who are down the trenches and we know what's happening. And you want to build relationships with everybody, because everybody is important. Everybody. When you go into these buildings, the security guards, the janitors, the cafeteria workers, everybody is important. So I hope you look at your virtual meetings in a different way based upon what I've told you today. I wish all of you the very best. And again, I want to thank you for joining this call, this presentation, and a special thanks to Madi and Lara, because it was such a pleasure working with them. They're such dynamic, vivacious women, and they did me the favor for letting me be on this presentation. So on that note, I'm going to pass it back to you. And I pray that everybody has a happy, safe Thanksgiving. Back to you, Lara.
Thank you so much, Yvette. It has been a pleasure hearing about all these tips that you have for our upcoming matchmaking events and for any future virtual meetings that everybody on this call may be having in the upcoming weeks. And now I would love to introduce Mari Rábago, the second speaker today. She's a well-known and respected bilingual public figure in Arizona, the US, and the Mexican border. Much of her career has been spent as the main news anchor at Univision stations and as a correspondent for national shows such as Noticiero Univisión and Primer Impacto. She has over 20 years as a Spanish journalist reporting local, national, and international news. And as I mentioned before, she's also the CEO of Mari Rábago Productions. Welcome, Mari. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Laura. Yvette, it's an honor to be with you guys, and I'm excited to share this practices that really can change the outcome of a meeting, a virtual meeting like the one Yvette and I had. And please, I would please ask not to replicate, because it was just a mock situation. So you can explore a little bit of what have you done in those instances, right, where you shouldn't have done. It might take a different turn of events and the outcomes that you're looking for your meeting. So I'm excited to share with you some of the practices I share with my clients. And if you don't mind, I'm going to start sharing my screen. You guys let me know. You guys can see it right now?
Perfect. Yes, we can see.
Okay. So this is the name or title of our today's presentation. Is actually the do's and don'ts of virtual meetings and the etiquette that we're supposed to have, right? So it's very important because most of us, I have a studio, I have an office, but most of the day I spend it in my home office, just like probably you do also. The pandemic really propelled the situation of virtual meetings or working from home for millions of us. And going out of the office or working from home does not mean that you can not request or not require to behave professional, to look professional, and especially to sound. You got to be prepared. You got to be respectful of the time of the person you're meeting with or the team that you're meeting. And you want to make sure that your ambient, your surroundings is social professional for the type of meetings. I know a lot of the people that we meet daily through our virtual meetings are high profile people like Yvette. And imagine having one of those meetings where it goes south, it goes sour, it goes wrong, and you lose millions of dollars of potential business you could bring to your company just because of the way that you did not take care of your surroundings, you didn't behave professional, or you didn't look professional. So with that, and further ado, I would like to start with some of the tips that I would highly recommend you start practicing and taking notes. I think taking notes is always great. As I used to do in a school, the more notes you take, the more you learn, right? Because you can always go back to the reference and apply it to your situation. So lighting. If you see the way I am light right now, and most of us at home have a ring light now because we live on virtual meetings most of the days. If you don't have the luxury of having a home office or having access to a ring light, I would highly recommend you positioning close to natural light. And the matter of fact is that natural light will give you the best lighting ever without you have to spending on a ring light or something like that. But if that is not the possibility because of the area that you are working from home, then consider using the best lighting, especially for your face. Look at the image that I have for you right now in the screen. It's somebody that you see the lighting is in the back part of the room. His face is half dark. And remember, just like when you do in-person meetings, it's very important for you to conduct with proper manner, but doing a lot of eye contact and also being able to interpret the body language of the person that you're having the meeting with, right? So it's very important. And also one of the highest recommendations that I have for you, when I said look for the natural light, make sure you're not giving your back to a window, because that's definitely going to make you look dark on the screen and have the lighting because it's going to be overexposed. Use natural light as much as you can. And obviously, something very important, look at these two graphics or those images that I have for you. I don't know if you noticed in the mock that Yvette and I worked around a little bit ago, I was sliding down in my chair. I was laying to the side. Well, that is a no-no, definitely. But particular, if you see one of the errors that I see with a lot of people, I have virtual meetings, even when I'm doing a social media live with them, that they have a lot of headroom. Like if you're seeing here in the picture that has the X on it, you see on top of the head, there's a lot of room versus the other one where you have enough and you can see your face. And the focus of whoever is in that meeting with you would be you, your eye contact. And for that matter, they're going to be more attentive to the information that you want to convey to them with the material you're sharing with them. So remember that as human beings, we're not only listening, watching, but we're also observing the body language. And body language speaks more loud than a lot of words. So you got to be careful with that in that aspect and be able to do so in a way that you can communicate proper with that, right? So another big no-no is definitely this. You might be dressed up with your jacket, with your tie, very professional, but if you don't make aware that people sharing your home that you're going to be in a professional meeting. How many times have we experienced this, right? Especially those people with small children or pets. My pet loves to be in my office working with me, but when I'm having the virtual meetings, definitely he's not allowed there because of the distraction, right? Especially when those distractions comes in the middle of very important conversations, you might force the other person in the meeting with you to think about it twice before giving you a yes or a go or green light on that contract that you were looking or creating that platform that you needed for to grow your business. So the type of noise also, I have teenage kids at home, and imagine they are always excited. They're males, so their voice is very deep, and they love to have their music on if they're taking showers or they're just sharing some time as brothers. Well, for me, definitely that is not professional to have that type of background noise while I'm having this type of trainings with my clients or having the virtual meetings that I have for potential clients or, anybody that had requested to meet with me. So that is very important for you guys to really look in your surroundings, having a professional ambient. And again, I wanted to emphasize what I said a minute ago. Just because you are not required yet to be full-time in the office does not mean that you don't have to have that behavior or that manner or conduct yourself in a professional way, even if you're working from home. A lot of us have the blessing or luxury in somehow that we had converted a piece or an area of our home into a home office. So if you don't have the luxury, make sure you're definitely not going to be having these meetings, let's say in areas that are high traffic, like in the kitchen or in the living room, where you can see people coming and going in and out of the house or moving from one room to another one. Not only they're going to be distracted to you and take away the focus that you have in that conversation, but also they're going to be distracted to the people joining you virtual in that conversation. So that would be some other recommendations that I would have when it comes to the ambient, to the area. And also something very interesting, if you saw or you heard also when Laura, when we're starting this training, she suggested and invited you to raise a hand if you had any questions or to put your comments in the chat box. That is the great etiquette when it comes to business virtual meetings, especially when you have it with more than one person, right? Like the type of trainings we're doing right now here. So that is a great way to do it and to keep that professionalism while you're having the virtual meetings. Big no-no is to be distracted on camera. Like I mentioned before, they're looking at your body language, they're listening. If you lose your train of thought because you're trying to multitask, definitely not the time to do it when you are in a virtual meeting. If you see the image and you may think that it's only teenagers that do this, but no, if I can only tell you the stories. And as I mentioned to my clients, a lot, your story has the power to inspire, but also it could be the way of your behavior, distracted, not attentive. You may give the wrong idea. You may make the other person with you in the meeting think that the conversation is not interested to you, that you are being disregard for what they have to say or share with you. So definitely that is not the way. It's not the time to be checking on your phone, to looking at your emails, to writing on your computer as you are participating in that virtual meeting. Make sure that you please do not do that kind of actions or behavior or have that type of behavior. Looking at the screen in different areas. If you're like multitasking on your screen with different windows open, that's definitely not the way. You want to be attentive. You want to be engaged in the conversation and minimize any distractions that you may have in that. The body language is very important. Remember, we communicate a lot with our body language, more sometimes than even words. So make sure you are attentive in practice. You can even do that in front of a mirror, right? You can practice your conversation. If you're going to have a sales pitch, if you're going to have your elevator pitch about your company, it's so important that you go ahead and do that. And like Yvette said, practice, because we all know that practice makes perfect, right? So you feel more confident, you look more sure of what and know what you are conveying and sharing with a person that you are having the meeting with. So for those people, I mean, we all love babies, we all love pets, right? And when I'm going to do a Facebook Live that I want to get attention for, the viewers so I can convey that information, that's a different type of setting. So most of the time I do it in my living room or in the kitchen, and I always have the kids around or the pets, because it's a prop that I'm trying to get their attention so they relate to me, and then I can convey the right information. But that does not work when you are having a professional business meeting virtual. If you see this image, is a working mom, and I know this is a situation for many of you right now. Make sure you get someone from the family to help you and take care of the baby while you're going to have one of these meetings that it's already should be on your schedule, and make sure you're not being a mom and changing your hats as you are conducting the meeting. That definitely doesn't give the right message, nor you will be taken in, with the credibility that you need to. So again, stay away from high traffic areas, like I mentioned, the kitchen, the living room. make sure that before you start a meeting, just like I did before we started this training, because I have some people working in the house outside and also one of my sons here, well, I convey that information to them, ask them to, for 1 hour, to stay quiet, to limit the traffic in the area where I am right now working. And I lock myself in the room that is my home office. You should do the same. Make sure that you convey that information with whoever's sharing the space that you're at right now at home, so they're respectful of your time, they stay quiet, and make sure you set the ground rules for any virtual meetings, especially if it's your position and you're going to be working from home for a longer time, okay? The way that you train them to behave is going to be easier for you. They're going to know how to respect your time. Now, this is a little extension of what I just mentioned, you know. I have a Maltiput. He's a year old and he's just a typical baby. He loves to be around me. You know, he thinks I'm mama, but definitely when I'm working and doing this type of trainings or having virtual meetings with clients, definitely it's not the time for him to be wanting to be pet. And obviously he's a pet, just like little kids. Maybe they might not understand the severity or the necessity for us to act and behave professional, but it's up to us to limit the space and schedule the time right. So you see the working dad right now with kids wanting their attention, is definitely not that time for him to be doing that when he's conducting a virtual meeting with his peers, coworkers, or potential clients. As the same, don't have your cat or your dog around the computer, because they may not only distract the other person, but they may, you know, cause some damage to your work area. So that's definitely not what you saw me doing as I was conversating with Yvette as we were doing the Mac, you know, this type of noise with the pen or chewing on a pencil or poking your ear, poking your teeth, eating while you are conducting this type of meetings is definitely a no-no. But the main thing, dress professionally, the way that you would dress in the office. And I know because of the pandemic and because of the number of people that were working from home now, we have relaxed a little bit the dress code. I live, and I'm speaking to you from Arizona. Most of the year, Arizona is a very hot weather, right? So just a professional, dress, wear a light jacket, or men could wear a polo, but something that you look professional. Please, please, whatever you do, as much comfortable as you are because you're working from home, do not assist or attend those virtual meetings in your pajamas. Try to make your hair, your face look professionally, put together just the same way. Think about how will you dress and behave when you have those in-person meetings, right? And I know particularly as Latinas, we're very curvy. We like to have colorful, clothing, but make sure you don't have those big long V-necks where you're showing too much, because it's definitely not professional. You don't want to give the wrong image to, especially if you're conducting a meeting with somebody you want to do business or a peer that is coming into your working environment. So act and behave and look as professional as you can always be. A great option to have also is, you see myself, I have a background, a virtual background that I use with the information for my company. Instead of having a busy background of people putting too much attention, what is the decoration that you have behind you because you're working from home, since you're not in your office as you would do, if you were having an in-person meeting. I mentioned a little bit of not eating during meetings. A lot of us have participating. Right now, it's actually noon Arizona time as we're speaking, depending on where you are in the country. It could be 2 o'clock, it could be 1 o'clock, right? Depending on the time zone you are. And sometimes we do have to be part of meetings during lunch hour. Some of those trainings will request or ask you to bring your own food or snacks. Be understanding and be kind to the other people. If you're going to be chewing or eating your lunch while you're attending a virtual meeting, you can turn off the camera and always mute your mic if you're not talking, if you're not speaking, if you're not asked a question, or you're not asked to do a presentation or participate in the conversation. Make sure you do your mute your microphone. And let me give you an example. I do a lot of trainings, right, with entrepreneurs, and it's very uncomfortable when you're in the middle of the training and somebody else joins and they forget to mute the mic of their camera, and they're walking around talking to their family members as they're joining from home, or some of them are even, you know, in a public area. So all that noise, that background noise, is really distracting, and it's taking away from the information that you're trying to convey, from the presentation that you're doing. So you're affecting the learning or the attentiveness of everyone in that virtual meeting, not only of the person that is giving the presentation. So be understanding, be polite, be caring, and understand that that is definitely not the way to do. You're definitely more than welcome. Like Yvette said, I always have my water next to me, or coffee, whatever, you know, tea, that if I know I'm going to be speaking a lot or for a long period of time, be considering the way that you you know, drink. If you have a straw, don't be zerby, you know, making all those noise when you're drinking. That's definitely not it. Don't be speaking as you're trying to eat, as like I said, if you're allowed to have snacks while those meetings, and depending on the rules set by the person that invited you to the meetings or the trainings, just be considerate and don't do things that you know that you would hate to see other ones do while taking care of a meeting, virtual meeting. This is the type of lifestyle that I think a lot of companies have adopted. Even those that have returned to the office, they have returned to the office probably 50-50 the time that they're being employed at that time. Or like myself, I only do in-person meetings at my studio, my office, by appointment. Most of the time, I'm taking the meetings virtual way, like I'm doing this type of trainings with you guys. So keep in mind that whether you're in person or you are going to be connecting virtually to the people you're going to be meeting with or training with, behave, act, and look professional. Impressions is a must, especially when you're going to have a first-time meeting with someone. I am sharing some of my information there on the screen, but I would love to take a lot of your questions. I believe that we learn more as we conversate more than the presentation. I wanted to just give you the points, the more highlight of the points of what are the things that you should be taking care or being taken in consideration while you having a virtual meeting. But it's so important, I think, in this type of conversations, just like the mock that Yvette and I did for you at the beginning of this virtual training, I can assure you that most of what we did in the mock is the things that are going to stay in your mind the longest of this presentation. So story has the power to really enlighten, and you may be laughing also as I was going through the process, because I can think of the people that had behaved in that manner when I had a virtual meeting with them, and how distracted and uncomfortable was for me as the conductor of that meeting to see their behavior and trying to bite my tongue. I don't know, Yvette, if you were in that situations where you biting your tongue so you don't say anything rude or call to the attention that the way they're behaving, it's definitely not the proper method to do it on a professional meeting, correct? Laura? Yvette? I think we're both muted, right?
Yes,
Yes,
no,
I couldn't agree
exactly.
more. I couldn't agree more. And what you said was so important, Marty, because a lot of times, well, not a lot, but on those instances where people are engaging in unprofessional behavior, it's incumbent upon me to maintain my equanimity and continue to be poised and professional with them, and not sink to another level to make fun of them or to make a mockery, because I'm here to help so many people. I've been blessed. People have helped me along the way. I've made mistakes, but I always keep my professionalism no matter what. Even if somebody says something that's offensive to me, I keep my
Your
my
coolness.
professionalism and my cool. And also, I noticed that somebody said in the comments that while I was presenting, Marty, while you were on camera, I was on camera speaking, you were still smiling. And I want to echo what you said about turning off your camera if you are not speaking, because sometimes it is a distraction for other people. But if you are going to stay on camera when someone else is speaking, please note that people are still paying attention to what you're doing. You may think that they're not, but they are. And I have seen that a lot, where people get on another call while they're on the call with others on a group call. So that's very, very important to think that you're going to remember that you're on camera, even if you're not speaking.
So
Great
I love
presentation,
that you
Mari.
mentioned that, Yvette, because I actually did it on purpose. If you notice, while you were doing the presentation, I was nodding and I was very attentive to what you were saying. I wasn't playing around with anything in my desk. I wasn't picking up the phone or nothing. Since we have done the mock, I knew Laura was going to go off camera, but I wanted to give that sense. And I loved it that they were so attentive and, you know, put in attention to those things. As you were doing your presentation, I stayed on camera, but that was the proper way of behaving. And most of the time we're in virtual meetings, we have the option, right? To mute our phone, our microphone. It should be a must if we're not speaking. Highly, highly recommend to get used to that kind of practice every time you're going to be having a virtual meeting. But particular, if you want to be on camera, you need to be in camera, make sure you're not looking busy, even if you don't have your mic on, because that's definitely very distracted to other people. And it's disrespectful also to the person doing the presentation or speaking at the time.
Yeah, I totally agree. And let's jump on the questions, because I know that when people register, they submitted questions as well. So I wanted to, I'm curious, and it's kind of connected to one of these questions, but I'm wondering, what is more important to you, Yvette, maybe during your interviews? Are the first 3 minutes more important, or the last 3 minutes, or both?
Well, there's an old adage, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And I think that I agree with that. The beginning is always like getting to know one another, but I want you to win strong and go strong. And in fact, I was running out of time and I didn't want to cut into Mari's time, but one other point that I have for you is in terms of etiquette and processes is when you conclude your call, make sure you understand what the path forward is and the cadence of future meetings. As a senior sourcing manager, I rarely can meet with a supplier more than once or twice a year. I have too many others that I have to meet with. I much rather people communicate with me via email. I don't want cold calls. I have to track what I'm doing, so email me. I had one gentleman that I was working with, and he started texting me and emailing me like it was some type of TikTok thing. He was telling me he was in church and that he was at a reception, and it was like he was telling me his daily activities. It was overkill. It was almost like stalking. It was too much. It was totally inappropriate. So make sure you have great clarity and understanding about the path forward of what the expectations are to continue communicating with that person in the future, and abide by those communications and be timely with those communications as well. Because if I ask you to revamp the capability statement, I didn't give her a timeline, because in the skit, the whole thing was that it was such a poor performance. I wasn't going to rush somebody to do that. However, generally, you can ask the person, when do you need it? Because in some instances, I may not have opportunities right away, so I'd rather you take a little bit longer. And in some instances, in some situations, I know I need that capability statement like the next day. So find out, you know, the who, what, when, where, and how of the expectations of the person going forward as well. So I always say finish strong. And as I had mentioned about the gentleman who came on late and had too many slides, he really had the opportunity to clean it up, but he didn't. So if you get off to a little bit of bumpy start, my last impression is what I'm going to remember the most. So I would say that the end. So Mari, what do you think?
Well, let me piggyback a little bit on what you said in the beginning. And one of the things that got my attention, and like I said, I like to have that conversation. I think we give more value to the people joining us in this training when we have this type of interactions and we share a scenario. So when you say be likable, yes, it's very important to be likable, to be yourself, to make sure your body language is that you're not nervous, and nobody knows better about your company, is your baby, is your dream. So share the excitement that you have, but don't try to overdo it or behave in a way that you don't normally behave, because guess what? It's going to show. It's going to show. You're going to look uncomfortable. You're not going to look yourself. You're going to look like you're acting. And, you notice a little bit, as much as I was chewing my gum, I can't stand people chewing gum like that. And it was so uncomfortable for me as I was doing it. So you got to be able to be yourself, but also feel and show that you're secure, that the information you're conveying, nobody knows it better than you, because it's your baby, it's your company. So be very careful with trying to be likable, be too much excitement. just be yourself in the presentation. That would be one of my recommendations. And I love what you mentioned also, Yvette, on asking questions. And that's one of the things I struggle. I speak for a living, for almost 30 years as a journalist. But one of the things that I acquire, or the behavior I acquired during that time, is to be a good listener. You mentioned that, especially those of us that love talking, we have to force ourselves to be good listeners, because that's where we can get the nuggets, the information that we need to know what kind of questions we're going to follow up, or what kind of questions should be more important for us to ask at that particular interview or virtual meeting in order for us to do the better impression with that person that we're trying to do business with. That would be some of my advice that I would add to that.
Thank you. And what do you think, Yvette, is the standard time that you will give a supplier that is meeting with you? Is it 45 minutes? Is it 30, 1 hour?
Well, it actually depends upon the capabilities and the qualifications of the supplier. Generally speaking, if it's someone who has the meets the criteria, we usually go 30 minutes. However, it's someone who has like a startup business and they don't have the revenues, I may not be able to give them more than 15 minutes. And in fact, going forward, I'm going to be conducting more group virtual meetings because of, again, the inundation of different suppliers that come in. We wanted to speak with everybody, but if you don't meet the criteria, I'm not going to be able to spend as much time with you.
Yeah, because Teresa was asking, how many slides do I need to have for a 45-minute presentation? But I think you mentioned 3 slides, have them handy.
Yeah, I think for my purposes, 3 slides is more than enough. And I'm going to harken back to what Mari said, because I think it's very important, is to have a conversation with the person. The slides are like an appetizer. It's basically, again, I was mentioning this is like a video production. Think of it as a production. And Mari, I'm glad you really clarified the fact that no, we don't want anybody to be phony. There's a difference between being phony and being likable. But at the end of the day, it's about building that connection and having that relationship with that person. And you get that more through a conversation than you do through slides. So I wouldn't spend the bulk of my time putting on slides. I would spend the bulk of my time I would spend a third of it presenting, a third of it listening to what the company needs, and then a third of it looking forward to the future and establishing what the path forward is. But there has to be that conversation.
Yes, and talking about backgrounds a little bit, right? Because it's always, maybe some people may not be skilled enough to create a background like the one that we have, or the one with the one that Mari has with all the different social media information. But what will be your recommendation as far as, for example, one of the questions we got through the registration form was, should I have a streaming video looping off images on my TV? So some people may be very creative, and you may have seen that at some meetings, and you may want to replicate what they did. But not everybody has that talent of having a very creative background that it's also engaging and connects to the conversation that you're about to have. So do you have any recommendations for backgrounds, Yvette and Mari, both?
I'll go to Mari first. Go ahead, Mari.
Thank you so much, Yvette. Definitely keep it simple. Make sure it's organized, it's clean. I'm sure all of us have seen those pictures on social media where girls are taking, selfies of them, and, they're looking all nice, but you see the background and there's clothes all over the place on top of the bed, or you name it, right? Or they're in the kitchen trying to do a video of cooking, and you can't focus on what they're doing because it's so messy, the background. So think about that, how it applies when it comes to a virtual meeting, right? Make it very simple, neat, and tidy in the area. And the less that you have to show on your background, the better. Remember, the important is to have enough headroom, as we call it in video production, right? Because if I do this and I'm laying on my chair, look at all this. It doesn't look right. It doesn't look professional. So make sure that you are looking at the person you're conveying or conversating with eye to eye, just the same way that you would do it in person. That is a must. The positioning of your camera, also very important, making sure you don't have too much headroom. You're not showing too much of the room where you are, because it is distractive. I am sure if I had, beautiful shine or something behind me, or some kind of very colorful, what is it? Un cuadro. My Spanish and my English sometimes breaks in here. So, a picture in the background that is too colorful, people would, lose their attention to what I'm saying and try to figure it out what the picture is in the back, the figures or everything. So make sure the simple it is, very clean and well lit. That would be my advice.
Once I saw, and I'm sorry, but let me just share this with you because it may help with your other comments that you have. But once I was in a virtual, like just business meeting, and I saw a beautiful girl on the screen with a beautiful bed in the back. I mean, she had a very beautiful bed and nightstand and everything, but I didn't feel that, even though it looked clean and neat, I didn't feel that that was appropriate. So just sharing, because I also had my own experiences. Yvette, go ahead and give your comment.
Oh, I agree with everything that you said and what Mari said. And also, as you guys are the living example of what to do in terms of a background. And if I go like this, I'm covering my logo. So make sure, remember when I said about practice, and get on camera and see what you look like before you engage in the meeting, and have somebody give you good feedback and critique you. AT&T, when we critique people, we focus on the capability statements. This is one of the many reasons why I thought it was important to have this, because we don't delve into that aspect of it. But some things are very obvious, and the professionalism that Madi and you are showing, I think, are exemplary of what should be presented. Now, the only caveat I say is that if, again, knowing your audience, at AT&T, I'm looking for the capability statement, I'm looking for the substance. But if you're in an area where perhaps you're in marketing or advertising, perhaps you can add a little bit more spark to whatever it is, because that's what you're conveying. Okay, so Madi is, she's got hers and she's got all the different platforms out there. That's wonderful, because that's her business. So that's very appropriate for that. So I think you have to really assess on a case-by-case basis what it is that you're trying to impart. And this is why I said from the very beginning, going forward, think of it as a production. Put the effort into saying, this is what I want to convey. This is the story that I want to tell. And this is how I want to end the story. This is how I want to start the story. It takes work. And I think I mentioned it, I can't remember, but send an agenda in advance. I really feel that is important, because number one, it gives you an opportunity to market yourself again. And also it shows me that you're focused and you're taking out the time, and it makes it easy for me, because I'll know who's going to participate on the call. I'll know what you want to say. And it gives the production, as I have called it, structure. It gives it structure. And then also follow up with a thank you. And in your subject line, put your company name. Just don't put thank you. I see this all the time. Hello from Jane, or give me your company name in the subject line. That's extremely important for your branding. But follow up with a very quick, brief meeting, and then follow up with any of the action items. But do provide an agenda before the meeting. I think that will help to focus the meeting. And then the other aspect of that is that if the company that you're working with wants to add something to the agenda, they can amend the agenda or revise it to say, and it doesn't have to be like a run of show where you have actual minutes, but the introductions, the overview, the Q&A, the very basics. But you set an agenda in advance. I think it helps me to focus, and it also exudes your professionalism, and you can put your logo on the agenda as well.
I love it. That's a great tip. Yes, Mari, continue.
I wanted to add a little bit, because you mentioned keep it as short as possible when it comes to the slides, especially when you're going to introduce yourself for the first time. If you notice, even my presentation was very short on slides. It was only 7 slides. That's it, because I believe, and I assure you, that you're getting more added value from this conversation that we're having right now. It's just like when you're trying to train your kids, right? The kids learn from your behavior, not what you're telling them not to do. So we are human beings, even in professional arena, we do the same. So the more you conversate, the more you interact with the person you're having the virtual meeting, or with the people you're having the virtual meeting, I assure you the information is going to ingrain better, be receptive, and also you're going to make a better impression, because we are in the business of relationship business. That's what we do, right?
Thank you so much, Mari. Thank you so much, Yvette, for this wonderful presentation. I saw a question related to more technical things like my camera is not working. I'm going to try to send you a couple links with a link to a ring light and a link to a camera that you can actually put on your monitor, and so you can set it up in different ways and you can have more flexibility. You will see a lot of great videos on YouTube as well of people showing you how to set up your ring light and your camera. Use books if you don't have any fancy stuff. So get creative, learn the tips and tricks, and be ready for your next virtual meeting. Remember, we're going to be posting this on our YouTube channel, USHCC TV. So I'm going to be sharing the link as soon as we have the video available. Thank you again, both of you. Thank you to AT&T for this wonderful partnership that we have, and for always caring so much about our small businesses and showing us that you really want them to grow. And thank you, Mari, again, for taking the time to meet with us today. Thank you to all of you. Thank you for joining, and have a good rest of your day. Bye.
Gracias. Pasen buen
Hasta
día.
luego. What an honor. Bye.
Okay. Bendición.
Bye.